Hey! What was I doing with my hand? Hey! Today, I am so excited to be sitting down and filming this because I just get to sit here and talk about all my favorite books. This ended up being really good timing because I just hit the 50 book mark for the year and it's June, which means we're halfway through the year. Almost. How? I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. I thought it would be fun to sit down and talk about all my favorite books that I've read this year so far. I don't know. I thought it'd just be fun to do the first half now, and then I will do the second half at the end of the year. Every year on Goodreads, I like to make a favorites folder so that way I can keep track of what my very favorite books were for the year. I've been doing this since 2018 and it just helps me stay organized because not every 5-star read is gonna end up being my favorite, you know? Because some 5-star reads are just a little higher than other 5-star reads. I have 10 books to talk about today. In my folder, I think there were 14, but 5 of those books are part of the Addicted series, so I'm not gonna talk about each one, you know? Because I'm counting it as one. The Addicted series, obviously #1 book this year, but, you know, whatever. Let's just get started. I feel like I've been talking forever. Okay, so I'm gonna go in chronological order starting from January and then move on to June. So starting off the year so strong, my favorite romance book of all time, Hot Flower by Kristen Becker Ritchie. I love this book with every fiber of my being. Now when I started the Addicted series, I started it in November last year and then, you know, continued on reading it through the new year. I thought for the longest time that Rose and Connor were gonna be my favorite couple. I was so excited for their books. Seeing them in the first 3 Addicted books and then finally getting to Kiss the Sky. I loved it. I loved Kiss the Sky so much. And then I read Hot Flower and it was over for me. It was over for me. I was so surprised because Reich and Daisy, they secured their spot at #1 in my heart and nothing will ever top that. So yeah, like I said, this is Reich and Daisy's book, 5th book in the Addicted/Calloway Sister series. It's incredible. I feel like I enjoyed this so much because I could relate to Daisy a lot. Even though we are 2 very different people, I could just relate to her more than the other 2 sisters. I feel like we had a connection, you know? And obviously Reich is just everything. He is the best. He's just the best. I loved their relationship so much. I loved that they had to keep it a secret at first, you know, the sneaking around in Paris and the road trips together. My god, it was just incredible. #1 of the year, #1 in my heart, #1 forever. Love this book so much. Next up, we have Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. Obviously, this is included. Colleen Hoover, my favorite. I love her so much. Anything she writes, I will probably give it 5 stars. Every single year, her books always end up in my favorites folders. Just, there's no beating it. There's no beating a Colleen Hoover book. And I know for sure It Starts With Us is going to be in my favorites at the end of the year. Anyway, Reminders of Him. So going in, I knew I was going to like it, but I was a little bit hesitant on just like the topic of the book. I wasn't sure it was going to be my favorites, but it was incredible. This follows Kenna. She just got out of prison. She has a daughter that she's never met because she gave birth while she was in prison, and I don't know, that just seemed like something that I wasn't going to love. It was incredible. She gets out, she's just trying to get to know her daughter. She meets Ledger, and Ledger is one of my favorite Colleen Hoover dudes ever. He was so sweet. He did so much for Kenna. I just loved them together. Even though their romance was not like the main plot, it was still everything. And I don't usually like kids in books. I feel like they can sometimes be either annoying or just like way too wise for being a child. Like, you know, when there's kids who just like give out love advice to the characters and you're like, what in the world? Like, you are a child. Like, I hate that so much. But yeah, that wasn't this. I loved the relationship between daughter and Ledger and then Kenna eventually, and Kenna was so strong. Even during her, you know, roughest moments, she always found a way to push through for her daughter, and It was really, really good. I loved this book a lot. Next up is From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. I think I also read this in January. This book was a surprise for me. I know so many people talk about how much they love it, but I just didn't think I was gonna love it. You know, I didn't think it was going to be a favorite of mine. A couple years ago, I read The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, and I also read Colty, and they were good. They were okay. I gave them both 4 stars, but they weren't really memorable for me. I expected the same thing going in for this. I was just like, okay, well, I'll try it out, you know? But I felt that way about most of the book. I really did. I was like, okay, this is good, you know, solid 4 stars. The characters are fine, you know, I like them. I like the plot, whatever. And then about 85% of the way in, they finally kissed, and it was over for me. I cannot even explain to you the giddiness I felt when I read that scene. Their first kiss scene was everything. I kid you not, I fell off the bed. I was just like giggling on the floor like a weirdo because I don't know, it just, all this tension has built up through the entire book, and then like this last little tiny bit, they finally get together, and it was so good. It was so good. It was really worth it. Normally, super long, slow burns, it takes too long. I'm not the biggest fan, but this one, it just, I don't know why, but it just did it for me. The payoff was so worth it. This, you know, little chunk that we got at the end of them being together, it was just so good. It was so good. I adored this book. Okay, so the next 7 books I'm going to talk about, I already talked about in my videos before. I think I read these in April through June. So you may have heard me talk about these before, because yeah, I talked about all these in wrap-ups before. I'm just going to kind of go through them a little bit quicker, but I will still probably just like ramble on about them forever. Starting with Normal People. Now, everyone knows this book. Everyone either loves this book or hates this book or just refuses to read it, which is totally valid. Like, I wasn't sure I was going to read it. Then I finally did. I just randomly picked it up. This book hurt me. This book hurt me. I can definitely see why it's not a favorite for a lot of people. I feel like if you cannot relate to either of the main characters, 1, you're lucky, and 2, you're just not gonna like it, because this book is about the characters. There's not really a story beyond that. It just heavily focuses on them as individuals, as them together or trying to be together. Gosh, I don't know. I can't even explain to you how I felt reading this. It really hit, and I feel like I am at the time of my life where what they're going through just is relatable for me. It's definitely more of a coming of age story, not really a romance. The show is so good as well, although this is kind of embarrassing because I watched it in April, but I never finished the last 2 episodes because I was just so sad. One of my favorite books ever. I feel like I can reread this forever. It's just, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but like, did I even love it? I don't know. It made me feel something that no other book has made me feel in a long time. So that is why it is on this list. Next, the complete opposite of that is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This one is definitely more lighthearted, more fun, thick romance book for sure. I don't know that it needed to be that long, but I enjoyed every second of it. I thought this was so good. This is about Knox and Naomi. It's like enemies to lovers, kind of. Grumpy Sunshine, small town, single parent. So good. I just loved the whole vibe, if you will, of this book. I loved the small town. I loved all the side characters and how they interacted with one another. It really felt like a family, like a community. And I just loved reading about that. They were always there for each other, and I thought it was so sweet. And the kid didn't bother me. I thought she was really sweet. So that was nice. I just loved the relationship between Knox and Naomi. I thought it was just so fun and so lighthearted. I just had a good time reading this overall. Confidence of Wildflowers by Macaulay Smelter. I feel like I've talked about this so much recently. It is an age gap romance, again, single parent. I'm sensing a theme. Anyway, it's again another Grumpy Sunshine book. So yeah, I know this is not everyone's favorite, and if it's not your favorite, then don't tell me. Okay? Thanks. Again, I don't really know how to describe it, but it was more about the feeling that I got while I was reading this. I read this book so fast. I loved the characters. I loved Thayer and all the things he did for Salem. You could tell he really cared about her, and I loved the relationship. I could talk about it forever. So beautiful, Such a good story. The end just like ripped my heart out to pieces, but yeah, loved it so much. So the next book I want to talk about is A Love Letter to Whiskey by Candy Steiner. This obviously one of my favorites of the year, but I feel like top 3 maybe? I don't know, but this is definitely one of my top favorites out of all the favorites. This book was just so emotional. It absolutely destroyed me. It's so angsty, it's so frustrating, but it is so worth it. Like, these characters were literally soulmates. Like, you could feel their connection just off the pages. It just felt so real. This book has me speechless, honestly. No words. Yeah, this follows Bea and Jamie. They meet in high school, and it follows them through the next, I don't know, 9-10 years. It follows them as they move. They have careers, they meet other people, but all this time there's like this invisible string, if you will, that just connects them together. Oh, it was so good. It was so good. Also, I am absolutely dying to get the 5th anniversary edition because I need Jamie's point of view. I just need to get inside of his head. Bought this edition, which is the original edition, instead. I'm so sad because I just need to know what he was thinking. Anyway, I will get it eventually. Even this one that was just Bea's point of view, obviously incredible. It was so good. I think about them all the time. This is another book that I can definitely see myself rereading eventually. Just looking through some of the quotes in here, incredible. So I'm going to talk about yet another emotionally destroying book. This is Full Tilt by Emma Scott. It's very sad. It makes your heart hurt. Like, literally, it makes your heart hurt. At least for me, it did. It made me sob. I adored these characters. It's about Casey and Jonah. Casey is a rock star who is kind of trying to get away from that lifestyle, and she meets Jonah kind of at the perfect timing because he kind of encourages her to, you know, step away, try and do her own thing with music instead of being a part of this band and just a lifestyle that's not really her anymore. Jonah is an artist, he's a limo driver. That's how he meets Casey. She ends up in his limo one night and it just goes from there. Their love story is just everything. I'm tearing up. If you are ever in the mood for something that is just so soul crushing, I recommend this. This is a duet, but the second one wasn't really my favorite, so I'm just talking about this one. Alright, second to last we have Redeemed by Lauren Asher. This one is definitely more lighthearted, more fun, more cute than some of the other ones. I just adored this book. Santi and Chloe just have the sweetest relationship ever. I love how they help each other, how they make each other into better people. It's just so sweet. I love the setting of this book. It takes place in Italy, where Santiago lives. He's an F1 driver, but something happened to him, and now his career is kind of put on pause. He's very sad. He's kind of depressed. He's lonely, you know, and then he meets Chloe, and it's just incredible. It is so cute. It's also fake dating, which is another reason why I love it. It wasn't like cheesy or cringy or anything. It was just so cute. And there's like a kid in this book. Santiago's nephew, and he's adorable. Definitely a great one if you want something more lighthearted. It also touches on some serious topics without being the whole point of the book. So yeah, I love this one so much. Are you ready for the last book I have to talk about today? Drum roll, please. A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime by Monica Murphy. I loved this book so much. Again, it all comes down to the characters, and I adored these characters. They both had really good character development throughout the book, like who they are in the beginning and who they are in the end were like completely different people. So yeah, one day Crew and Ren get paired up for this psychology project where they basically have to get to know each other. Ren is like really not into it. She tries everything in her power to get switched to a different partner because she's very stubborn. She does not want to work with Crew. Basically, because of that, they really get to know each other better. They get to know themselves better. And again, I love the characters. I love how it all ended. I loved just the story. It really, really focused on them and their relationship rather than like this big plot. So yeah, it was good. It was really good. I liked it a lot. Obviously. Alright, you guys, here are my favorite books of the year so far. I could just talk about them all day long. So I hope you enjoyed that. As always, you can let me know your thoughts on any of these, as long as you aren't hating on them. Thank you very much. So yeah, you can leave a comment below, anything you want. I love to read them. So yeah, that's all for now, and until next time. Bye! So I knew I was going to like it. Oh! Okay, I just literally kicked that. Okay.